So the people talking are telling me things they would like me to talk about that I will not talk about. But I'll tell you guys, just in case you guys want to talk about it. They said they're trying to game me out, or they're trying to run a game on me. They said it's about game theory, figuring out what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do. They also said that I was creepy. And in my videos, I look creepy, which is exactly why they would want to recruit me. I mean, I don't know who doesn't want to recruit someone they think is creepy. They also said I should talk about high school, whether or not I thought one of my classmates smelled. They also talked about whether I accused my supervisor of smelling, but then they said, no, you should tell everyone you did not accuse your supervisor of smelling. What else was it? They said they're not sure if I accused my classmate of smelling. So again, these are the topics they would like me to discuss, but I rather, you guys can discuss it, or you guys can wait for them to discuss it, because these are obviously topics they're interested in that I'm not interested in. Oh, what was the other thing? They said that, that I had a coworker. He wasn't actually a coworker. He worked at my job. And this is like years ago. I mean, I don't even know the last time I would have seen this person. He was gorgeous, and he was gorgeous. Okay, let's just say that. And they said he was gorgeous. And finally, that's something that I agree. But again, if you guys want to talk about that, you guys can talk about that. I would like to talk about something else, but I want to tell you all the topics that they suggested I talk about. Oh, they talked about my ex-boyfriend again, who they're obsessed with. And they said I didn't out him, but again, you guys can talk about that. Here's what I would like to talk about. I would like to talk about why they're talking to me, which to me is more important. Part of it is that they're doing it to confuse me. They said the reason they were hitting me with things and trying to make me see things is because they can create a computer generation of something that happened based on a story. They use the word recreate. But if it's based on a story, you're not recreating it. Again, I told my mom, don't use air quotes in here. In every video, I'm like air quoting it. Anyway, so you're not recreating a story if that wasn't how it actually happened. But what they're trying to do is confuse me. So by constantly talking about something over and over again, because they know I want to take this to court, when I get on the stand, they figure I'll be confused. Wouldn't it be more confusing if they're always talking? If I go into the court and they're talking out loud and I'm on the stand, isn't that confusing? It wouldn't just confuse me. It's out loud. It would confuse everyone. That's my point. They keep insisting this was always happening. Could you imagine going in court and someone's like, and then this happened? Everyone would say this was not always happening. Okay, we got to have common sense. The other thing I want to talk about, so besides the fact that telling me these stories and then trying to computer generate it so that I could see it in my head, but then when I don't see it in my head, they talk about it nonstop. It's meant to confuse me, but it's also something that couldn't have always been happening. The other thing I want to talk about is, when I'm going through this and I'm doing it publicly and you see me, I show you me, no makeup, not showering, not brushing my teeth, just a regular person, and you see me getting sick, you start to see how it must feel for me to be around people who made me sick and don't care. That in the moments when I'm dealing with this illness and I'm going to the hospital and I'm getting therapy and I'm trying to work through the illness, what's most important to them? Let's give her suggestions. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to have any empathy. They said it's going to be constant pressure. And they said it's going to be to out me. And then they talk about stuff that they don't know anything about. So you're not outing me. Outing somebody, I don't know. I told you guys in a previous video, my generation, we didn't call things outing. But talking about something that you don't know about is not outing. And I said that in a video and they said, oh, we freeze your thumbnail so that you look creepy. Okay. All right. They're back on the creepy thumbnails. My point is, isn't it creepier to have people pretend they know something that they don't know and then spread it around? Doesn't that make them the very thing that they're accusing me of? that you're accusing me of something that you're doing and then twisting it to make it seem like. So they said everything in my life they can kind of link to something else after the fact. So how is that possible, folks? Could you imagine if everything that's ever happened to you, some crazy group of people decide to say, we're going to use this person as an example of punishment, and then link things after it happened back to her and make it look like she's the one doing it. And that's impossible, folks. So they say, why don't you say you guys anymore? I say you guys, I say folks, I say you people. These are things I've always said. And suddenly when everyone else is saying it, it's okay. And that's my point with them. They seem to be taking credit for my work and my accomplishments, then trying to find a way to minimize them. So they said, oh, you just barely got your Regents diploma because it took you a while to pass the math portion. Yes, and I talked about that to everyone with ears. That's what I always say. Everyone with ears knows that when I was in elementary school, and I transferred school for 3rd grade, I had a reading textbook that I completed. And the person asked me, did you read this book? And I said, huh? She said, okay, if you're not sure, you'll take the other textbook. I said, no, I read that one. But they didn't trust a child. And I was put into a slower reading class. The reading class was tied to math. It wasn't because I had a problem with math. So I learned math at a slower rate and didn't learn as much math as some of my classmates. That meant over the years, I always had to work a lot harder at math. This is the point. Everybody knows this story. That's why I don't care about telling it publicly. So that's a commonly known story of mine. It happened. I'm 49. I've moved on. They weren't there. And that's my point. When you start to pull, you start to pull these things apart with these folks, they pretend to be in the know. They don't like when I say that because it means they pretend to know something they don't know. They were not there. And when you're not there and you start coming up with these stories and trying to out me for doing stuff that you don't know and you weren't there for, you look ridiculous. So they said, I'm going to come to a point where I get uppity, racist. That's my point. So they try to connect, things that they've done to me. And everybody knows. I've shown the thank you cards, the commendations, all the stuff. I showed that in the beginning of all this when I was, coming on camera talking to you. So I came on camera talking to you, last year sometime. But I started talking about it I started talking about it in 2019. But I wasn't on camera until sometime in, I think, July 2019 when my face was swollen. But I didn't link everything until maybe last year so that you guys would not just have my word, but accommodation is someone else's word. A reference letter is someone else's word. Thank you cards, those are someone else's words. Letters, those are someone else's words. So you wouldn't just have to take my word for it. So I'm not just living in my own fantasy world. There are other people who clearly found the same qualities in me that I hope you guys are seeing in me. So I'm not making stuff up after the fact. I'm not linking things up 30, 40 years after something happened. I started in elementary school. I started kindergarten at 4.5. My birthday's in December. So I'm always the young one in class. And there are a few others of us. We're a handful of the young ones in class. So if I started kindergarten at 4, first grade at 5, second grade at 6, I was 7 years old with the textbook. I was a 7-year-old. But in their minds, that meant that at 7 years old, I was supposed to have life figured out. I was supposed to know things. I'm 49 and I'm still learning and telling people as I learn. So when we're talking about these things, so they said, well, what about in high school? They're making things up after the fact. In high school, we were high school kids. And we behave like high school kids. I said to somebody before that we weren't like, the kids now are much smarter than we were. And when I look at how the kids are now, they have that thing about them that they know more about life than my generation did. So they said, well, they're trying to connect this to what happened in the 90s with a lot of, young kids. It's hard to do that because we weren't savvy like that. We weren't. We were young, and we were coming out of a time in the 70s, like especially my generation, where we had Sesame Street, we had certain shows that showed everybody getting along. The world was supposed to be such a better place. And they had all the songs, I can go through a list of the Better Place songs and things like that. That was what we were coming from. That was our mindset. So when you try to put after the fact into that mindset, it doesn't work. So when they're saying, well, what about this and what, it doesn't work at 49 to go back in history in the 1970s and 80s. So what happened during the 1970s and 80s, to me, led to the 90s. It's hard. It's hard now at 49 to look back and say, boy, I wish I had known that. I wish I had known these types of people existed. I wish I had known how to convey. I'm trying to figure out how to convey it today in the 2000s and 23s when we have these phones that can take cell phone videos. Can you imagine talking about this type of stuff when you had to get pictures developed at a damn photo lab? You couldn't do this type of stuff then. So to try to make all of this stuff fit the past, it doesn't work. The other part of that is that they're trying to take credit for my work and what I've accomplished at the same time as minimizing it, which means one of two things. Either they weren't there, because trust me, had they been there, they would have taken credit all along. That's who they are. They would have been the ones pushing me out of the way to get into taking credit for my work. But most of all, they don't know. They don't know what the Regents diploma is. And as they're discussing it and realizing how difficult it is, they think that me trying to take the math test more than once, I got close twice, and then I did it. That to them is a sign of failure. To me, that's a sign of who I am. You want to know who I am? I'm going to keep fighting. I worked hard to get the coursework done, to get my math skills up, and to pass. And that's who I am. That's more of an example of who I am and how they don't know and they don't understand how difficult. They said it's difficult now, the Regents diploma. Imagine not having computers the way, no internet. You use books. I'm telling these folks, we didn't have the technology that people have now, and it's hard now. Imagine no internet connection. You had to physically be in a class with a teacher. There's no remote learning. There was no remote learning back then. A teacher was teaching you math, teaching you science. You didn't have the computer to sit and just put things on the computer the way people have now. You didn't have all this special technology. You had a classroom, a teacher, pen, paper, and some type of calculator. And I don't think we could use a calculator back then. I don't think the Regents allowed us to use a calculator. That's how difficult life used to be. Everyone has calculators now. I don't think we could use a calculator. I think we had to do it all the long way. And that's my point. They don't know what they're talking about. You cannot apply today's life to yesterday's life. And the other part of that I want to say is that when I'm telling you these things, they think I would feel ashamed. I feel proud of what I've accomplished. And if that makes me seem uppity, I'm fine with it. There are always going to be people who dislike me. I think that's just life. But I don't have to twist myself like they twist themselves to be liked. I think that's what I'm trying to tell you about this group. They're twisting themselves to be liked and accepted. And when you don't like and accept them, they go for you. They come after you. So in trying to out me, they've outed themselves more than anything. This is about people who don't like rejection because they're not normal. We all get rejected. I've been rejected from so many things, so many times. I'm not even concerned about it anymore. It's part of life. Not everyone's going to like everyone. So if anything, I hope me doing these videos will show people, don't feel the pressure to be something you're not, because these people aren't what they say they are. And that's part of what I'm telling you. When I was growing up, we didn't have these types of pressures. You wore cute clothes. It was cute. Who were they by? I don't know. They were cute. That's how it used to be. Over time, we became a society where everything had to be perfect, and you saw perfect people looking perfect all the time. You didn't see this type of stuff. And that's my point. When I was in high school, we were just kids. We weren't perfect looking. We were cute sometimes not so cute. And we still accepted each other as we were. And if someone didn't like you, who cares? You're not going to be liked by everybody. And I already know that. I'm too old not to know it. And these videos aren't about being liked. It's about explaining what the torture program that they put me in was about. It was about trying to find dirt. And when they couldn't find dirt, they hit me in the head. They spoke to me all the time. They investigated the investigations, I think. That's how much investigating they did. And then what happened? They hid. They didn't want to be seen because they were liars. So I don't care about their opinion of me. They're fake, phony people who hurt people. And I don't have any empathy for them because they have none for me. Thank you for watching.